You know, I was just talking to my beloved on the weekend about the 1980s. And I know, what you don't know, and ignorance is bliss and all of that. But we were talking about the bright, shiny, optimistic, neon-clothed 1980s. And I got to ask again, was there a better decade? And perhaps because this conversation came up with a couple of buddies as well, one who said, do you think everybody thinks the decade when they were a teenager was the best decade? Perhaps. Maybe those teen years were better than we thought. I don't know. And the other buddy said he thinks humanity peaked in the 1980s. This is just random conversations over the past few days. And we start the show with an 80s classic track. That is from 1988. On this day, Billy Ocean took that song to number one. The song, of course, is Get Out of My Dreams, Get Into My Car. And I chose it not just because the 1980s were the best decade, but because cars will factor into our show today. So a little bit of a theme to start us off on this Wednesday morning, the 9th of April. Welcome to the program. Against my better judgment, I'm going to do this to start. I'm going to go right to the phones. Andre is there. Andre, what could you possibly have on your mind already?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Andre.
Game day tomorrow, so...
well, but that's tomorrow. See, this is today. What do you have on your mind today, Andre?
I'm excited. Well,
You're excited already for tomorrow's game? Me too.
I got a feeling we're going to win.
Andre, slow down. It's just the start of the series, and the game's tomorrow. Okay.
I want to talk about a reminder to Mr. Douglas, because I think he's older than us, about his team. And also I'd like to hear from Chef D, because one time you brag about him saying his team was all the way up there.
You know what, Andre? I just hung up on Andre because I know where he's going with that. And Mr. Douglas would be Mark, our morning news anchor who does all news mornings with Christine Clark. Both Mark Douglas and Chef D. Oh, and I have to throw Andre into the mix. They are fans of the team that shall not be named. My beloved also a fan. One of those buddies I was talking to about the 1980s these last few days, also a fan of that team. I'm surrounded by fans of the team that shall not be named. I know, you're all very excited. We're going to make the playoffs. We got the greatest rebuilding team in the history of rebuilding teams. All right. I get it. You're allowed to be happy about it, but I don't have to listen to it because it's my show. And you bring that happy crappy onto my show, and I hang up the phone on you. That's how this works.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Let us begin with your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. And I know you don't always like that. It's just in sports, okay? I'm just having some fun. I'm not really that rude. I just think it's kind of fun. It's my shtick, okay? That's one thing I won't tolerate. Other than that, we have free and open conversation on the show. Number one on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, regional police remain on scene of an early morning shooting in Kitchener. Happened just after 2 a.m. in the Lancaster and Union area. One person is in hospital in what police are calling a targeted incident. Number two, the region is considering a rural speed zone strategy that would increase speed limits on township roads, even if they are near schools. A committee got an earful from delegates and Woolwich Township Mayor Sandy Shantz yesterday, calling for a speed camera carve-out. Council is expected to vote at an upcoming meeting on a new bylaw that would return some rural speed limits to 60 kilometers per hour from their current 40. We'll hear from one of those delegates on the show this morning at 9:30. Number three on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, an elevated expressway, Doug Ford's infamous 401 tunnel. Those are the ideas the province is reportedly considering to ease congestion on the 401 from Mississauga through Scarborough. A government report estimates the average drive time along the 401 between Highway 427 and Highway 404 will double by 2051, from the current average of 22 minutes to 44 minutes. Number four, world shares have slumped, and the futures market suggests more losses are in store for U.S. stock markets when trading begins this morning, as President Donald Trump's latest tariff hikes go into full effect. European and some Asian markets extended their losses, but even though Trump's latest tariffs include a massive 104% levy on U.S. imports of Chinese products. Markets in China reversed early losses and have gained ground today. It comes as China raised tariffs to 84% on goods coming from the U.S. as part of its countermeasures. Meantime, Ottawa has added to its retaliatory measures by implementing similar tariffs on vehicles imported from the United States. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, a Chinese billionaire in British Columbia has announced on social media her plan to buy dozens of Hudson's Bay locations marked for liquidation. On the Chinese platform Red Note, the entrepreneur says she wanted to do something after seeing that Canadians are feeling sad over the collapse of the retail giant. She plans on submitting her proposal for the retailer's assets within days. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. So, as I said at the beginning, with a Billy Ocean song about cars, that's kind of a theme running through the show today, including an elevated expressway for the 401. And Doug Ford is not giving up on the tunnel idea. Look, we know that congestion on the 401 is what it is. But surely to goodness, a tunnel and or an elevated expressway is not the answer here. Is it? What would you do? What would you like to see done to ease the congestion on the 401? I know we've all dealt with it. You want to go to a Blue Jay game? Book yourself 2.5 hours to make sure you get there in time for the first pitch, right? What would you do to ease congestion on the 401? Let's get some ideas here on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We've all had to deal with it at one time or another. You may be dealing with it right now. What do we do about congestion on the 401? Can we think outside the box this morning? 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. I would love to hear your ideas for reducing congestion on the 401. The first thing that came to mind for me, because, of course, if you have not yet heard, along with the tunnel idea that Ontario Premier Doug Ford still seems hell-bent on pursuing, there is also a suggestion of an elevated expressway, much like the Gardiner in the downtown area of Toronto. Now, anybody who knows anything about the Gardiner knows it is a crumbling mess currently. And I'm just not sure that's the kind of infrastructure you want to build for a modern road network. But that's just me. Reports are reports, and smarter people than I put together those reports. But of the two ideas, the tunnel seems better to me, which is a bizarre thing to say. The first thing that came to mind for me, if I'm thinking about reducing congestion on the 401, is something that we've talked about time and again on this show. And that is, well, how about an actual, effective, high-speed, fast-moving, efficient rail line? Please and thank you. We know the line, the tracks already exist. They basically run parallel to the 401. That was my first thought. But then, when you consider that what Ontario Premier Doug Ford is talking about, and that is the congestion from Mississauga through to Scarborough, in my mind, when I think about that all-important rail line, I think about people getting from here in the region of Waterloo to downtown Toronto, right? Which basically only covers you from Mississauga to the 427. This is for the traffic that needs to go across the top of Toronto, as we would say when I worked in that city and I actually did traffic reports. And so you're in the downtown area, but the 401 was across the top. Presumably, this is the traffic that needs to get through the Toronto area and continue on its routes on the 401 to Eastern Ontario, into Quebec, etc. I'm thinking we're talking about all of that truck traffic. And we know there are billions with a B, of dollars lost in productivity because goods can't move quickly or effectively enough, and people can't move quickly or effectively enough. So what do you do to solve that issue? I think most of the people are heading into the downtown. Maybe they're going beyond the 427 and working in areas that the 401 can take them to. But it just occurred to me that the rail line is not the magic bullet that we might think for all of the traffic that is there. Of course, it's also been said, and this would make economic sense, at least from where I'm sitting, let's just open up the 407 and give transport trucks free ridership along there, which gets me to the idea of having sold that highway in the first place. Oh my goodness gracious, what a mistake that was. But why don't we just allow transport trucks to use the 407 for free? That would be far more cost effective than doing some sort of big dig and building a tunnel or some kind of elevated expressway to help move vehicular traffic along the road network. I don't know what the answer really is here, but again, going back to the billions of dollars that are lost in productivity just because of a road and all of the vehicles on it, something really does need to be done. This isn't just about getting home at a reasonable hour from work so you can spend time with your family, although I don't think we should dismiss that. I just think there are far greater economic priorities than that. I heard somebody say just the other day that what we really need to do is create another major city in Ontario. Like Toronto is it, but this person described Toronto as a size 9, and we're trying to fit a size 12 population into it. So let's just create another major urban center in Ontario so that Toronto can go back to its appropriate size 9, and then we can start filling up another size 9 with the 3 sizes that are left from the existing size 12. Interesting idea. I don't even know what that looks like logistically, but it does get me to thinking about all of the people who live in this area along the 401 corridor from Windsor through to Quebec, right? About a quarter of the entire country's population is here. And if we were to just scale what we see in neighborhoods in this city when previously single-family homes get turned into multiplexes, it seems as though every person living in that now multiplex has a personal vehicle of their own. And I know that we want to get people away from those personal vehicles, but it certainly hasn't happened yet. So if you just think about the population explosion and the people that buy a vehicle or come with a vehicle to this part of Ontario, it only makes sense that we continue to jam up the existing road network. I don't think a tunnel or an elevated expressway is the answer, but we sure as heck need to do something because the congestion is costing us way too much. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Do you remember the story from late last year? I think it began around the fall and then continued to spread because the story was about the thefts of butter from area grocery stores. This was a coordinated effort that, as I said, spread, if you get what I mean, talking about butter thefts. Well, it appears as though the butter thieving ring is now toast, or at least it's got a dent in it, because Waterloo Regional Police say they have charged 5 people in connection to the butter thefts that were carried out over a period of 6 months. I mean, this story just keeps getting butter and butter, doesn't it? In the first place, when we began talking about the story, one would raise an eyebrow and think, why butter? We even had a guest, an expert from the University of Guelph on the show to talk about it. And I guess, I mean, the speculation was we have reached such a point with the cost of various items that stealing butter, there was actually a black market for butter. You can't make this stuff up. And yet here we are all these months later with the arrests announced. I mean, could you imagine somebody coming up to your local bakery or some other business that relies on butter, and you open the trench coat, hey, psst, want to buy a stick of butter? I got a real good discount on sticks of butter. And of course, we as consumers end up paying more and more for it. Anyway, apparently the 5 people once arrested had a meltdown. And I don't really know if they had a meltdown. I'm just extending it for as long as I possibly can. The only thing I couldn't figure out in all of this is why butter was the chosen item to steal, because I didn't know the profit margins on butter were all that good. Anyway, regional police have announced 5 arrests in connection to the series of butter thefts that plagued our community and Guelph some months ago. Thought I would fill you in on that as we move along with our show here this morning. Quick note of programming. Andre, before I so rudely cut him off before, already excited for the Kitchener Rangers game tomorrow. Yes, the Rangers are opening a playoff series. Round 2 begins tomorrow night in Windsor versus the Spitfires. That affects my schedule today because I'm traveling down to the border city. So you're going to hear Rob Snow from noon until 3 today on the show. He's going to start an hour earlier for you so that I can get the heck out of here and make sure my travel plans are not impacted. And then I'll do the show from Windsor tomorrow and Friday. So same show, just me in a different location. Before, though, we even get to noon and I skedaddle a little early. Lots coming up on the show, including our weekly Wednesday morning segment at 10 with Tom Korski, the managing editor of Blacklock's Reporter, minding Ottawa's business. Blue Jay Hunter will be here at 11, and I'm really looking forward to a new feature we will debut starting every Wednesday, starting this morning at 11:30. Political R&D, the R for Rob, the D for Deutschmann. That's right, Rob Deutschmann will join us weekly on Wednesday mornings at 11:30 to give us some insight into the goings-on in municipal politics. So all of that to come on the show today. Right now, to the 570 News Center we go. And after this update, let's talk about speed cameras, particularly in the townships. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. At a committee meeting of Regional Council yesterday, councillors got an earful. A number of delegations presented, pushing back against new speed limits in school zones in our townships. It doesn't make sense, some say, to go from 80 to 60 to 40 in a very short stretch of a regional rural road that's designed to carry large volumes of traffic and moving at a pretty brisk speed. Again, if you're traveling 80 and then the next thing you know it's 60 and the next thing you know right after that it's 40, that is creating problems, say the people who live in the townships and are dealing with it on a regular basis. That prompted Woolwich Township Mayor Sandy Shantz, who of course, because she's the mayor of a township, also sits on regional council, to bring a motion forward at yesterday's committee meeting asking for this to be reconsidered and that a rural speed zone strategy be created. Randy Spruitt is a St. Clements resident and one of the people who spoke at yesterday's meeting. And Randy joins our show this morning. So let's just start kind of with the high-level picture here, Randy. What is it that makes 80 to 60 to 40, and then particularly that 40 kilometer per hour speed limit, a problem?
Yeah, so we need to understand first what the road is used and designed for here. So we're talking about Lobsinger Line in particular. This is an arterial road. Its purpose is to move people and goods between communities. It's essential infrastructure and economically important to the region. Now, keep in mind, this is not a residential street. There aren't pedestrians or cyclists. It's used for heavy commercial traffic.
I know that you were at the regional committee meeting yesterday as a delegation, so obviously you've been active on this. What steps have you taken to date leading up to yesterday in an effort to draw attention to this?
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah, there was a grassroots petition. So we shared this with regional council yesterday. There were 665 respondents. 97% were in favor of removing the 40 kilometer an hour speed limit and speed camera due to safety concerns. That, if you look at the data, it's nearly everyone. For example, one respondent was a mother of three where both parents are teachers, specifically called out how safety conscious they are, yet shared views of just how unsafe this area has become. We see this from many others, myself included. I just want to thank Mayor Shantz for putting forth the motion to raise the speed limit to a more appropriate level with the region while we create a wider rural strategy to improve consistency across the townships. We do know every situation is a bit different, and there isn't one size-fits-all solution here.
Yeah, and I think you allude to something that's important here, and it's connected to what you talked about earlier with this being a regional road. It doesn't necessarily have pedestrians, cyclists, et cetera. It's meant to move heavy traffic and move it rather quickly. So what would you propose as an alternate speed limit then? Instead of going down to 40 in school zones, what do you think it should be?
Yeah, so keep in mind this was an 80-kilometer road originally. The petition called for 60 kilometers an hour during school hours only and 80 kilometers an hour otherwise. We asked for a flashing light when the school is in session and the speed limit is lower, just so people know they have to slow down here. Again, this received 97% support from residents. The actual motion that passed yesterday switches this to 60 kilometers an hour at all times. I don't think this goes far enough. The site is unique. As you mentioned, there are no pedestrians here. There's no cyclists. There's no buses. This is a private school. Students are driven to this school. The setbacks from the road are sufficient. There's a recreational area that's fenced. It's nowhere near the road. The school opened in 2020. So keep in mind, in 2020, the speed limit was 80 kilometers an hour at that time, and there was no safety concerns raised. In addition, there's a side access from Three Bridges Road where this could be reconfigured. I just want to call out that Joe Nowak, and I thank him for sharing this, other communities have successfully implemented flashing lights without a camera. I'm disappointed this option was not adopted as part of this motion. I do want to encourage the region to spend more time listening to the community and consider a wider set of solutions beyond speed cameras alone. The request from the community was clear. Automatically applying 24/7 speed cameras everywhere is not a solution. It just creates road rage. We want to see road users see a lower limit, focus on the situation, and think, school is in session. I see kids nearby. I understand why I need to slow down. What we don't want to see is them staring at speedometers, fearing a ticket, or focused on their rearview mirror, worrying about getting rear-ended, which is what's happening today. This isn't safer. It's not just put a lower speed limit in and automatically things are safer. I'm like, no, this is an arterial road. It has heavy commercial traffic.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear on something. When you said the reduction to 60 doesn't go far enough, do you want no reduction at all? You just want the flashing lights to be there? Would that be your suggestion?
No, for clarity, it's the motion says 60 at all times. The proposal is leave it at 80, except for during school hours, then lower to 60. When the flashing lights are on, it's 60. People realize this is school hours and you need to slow down. Gotcha.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So I guess this ties into, and you've touched on it, Randy, this idea of a rural speed program. And I know after yesterday's meeting, that is a direction we're going to head here. How do you feel about that as a direction? What might a rural speed zone program look like?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I'm happy to see that council understands the problem. There's a need for consistency across these different regions. I don't understand why the region is so obsessed with 24/7 cameras everywhere. This is a large punitive hammer that seems to be the default. This is some government overreach that we're seeing. To our knowledge, in this area specifically, no student has ever been injured or worse in front of this school. It's selecting the solution without any evidence. And we say we're evidence-based, but let's see the data. Let's make sure we're picking the right tools for the problem. We didn't see this. Like the 2024 reports that instigated this change have none of this. Now, let's counter that with 2022 reports that have actual safety data. And I'll quote one summary here that no safety problem exists near schools on regional roads. Another quote, existing speed limits are appropriate. Yet in 2024, somehow every speed limit is somehow too high. And yet we have zero data showing otherwise.
You won't get an argument from me on the idea of 24/7 surveillance, particularly in school zones when schools are not in session, summer holidays, Christmas holiday, whatever it may be. And in watching your delegation yesterday, Randy, you have described this as a cash grab. Do you feel as though that's what the speed program is designed to do in the region?
I do believe that's what this is. So let's look at some data. From 2024, the estimated expenses were $2.9 million to run this program. And remember that every single dollar to pay for this comes from taxpayers somewhere, either through fines or tax increases. We have to ask the question, is the same money better spent elsewhere? Like, how many lives could a doctor or nurse save if we hired them instead? We note that 34 additional regional employees were added to oversee the program without data showing it's actually effective. And I want to counter the point that this is revenue neutral. It's not revenue neutral. It's creative government math that comes from taxpayers. Keep in mind the operator is a foreign-owned company, and the revenue split with that company is kept secret.
Randy, I appreciate your advocacy on the issue and the time you've given us on the show today. Thank you very much for being here.
Perfect. Thank you kindly, Mike.
Randy Spruitt is a St. Clements resident. He was one of the people who presented at a committee meeting of Regional Council yesterday about speed zones in our townships. And there will be a move towards the adoption of a bylaw that creates a rural speed zone strategy. I don't think we're getting rid of speed cameras altogether, although this suggests to me there's at least a crack in the consensus. And it reminds me of the crack in the consensus of the carbon tax when the federal government offered the carve-out to Atlantic Canada for home heating. And that basically, I think anyway, started the downfall of the implementation of the tax. I can't help but think this is going to be a real dent in the desire to have, 175 of these cameras around the region by 2028. It's just proving a couple of things. One, that one size does not fit all. And two, people are genuinely pushing back against this idea because it feels like a cash grab. If you are ticketing me for driving 45 in a school zone at 10 o'clock at night or on a Sunday morning or over the Christmas break, that feels unnecessarily punitive. And I love what Regional Councillor Pam Wolf said yesterday. We want to work towards compliance, not defiance. Because what we have seen certainly with one speed camera in the region, hello, Sir Adam Beck Public in Baden, repeatedly vandalized. That's the defiance that has been created because I don't think we feel as though the system is necessarily fair. What say you? Is it time to reimagine, reconsider, maybe even just repeal the speed camera program in the region? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. The easiest thing to do is just not exceed the speed limit. But boy, oh boy, we've got a bit of a hornet's nest here, haven't we? Let me know your thoughts on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The request from the community was clear. Automatically applying 24/7 speed cameras everywhere is not a solution. It just creates road rage. We want to see road users see a lower limit, focus on the situation, and think school's in session. I see kids nearby, understand why I need to slow down. What we don't want to see is them staring at the speedometers, fearing a ticket, hopping safe. This isn't safe. It's not just put a lower speed limit in and automatically things are safer. I'm like, no, this is an arterial road. It has heavy commercial traffic.
Randy Spruitt would like to see data-driven decisions around speed cameras. I've talked about this enough. You know I'm on board with where Randy is coming from. I don't think that our speed camera program has been necessarily well thought out, and that's why we're getting the pushback that we're getting. What say you? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Brad, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good.
Well, I'd just like to say that I agree with the petition to stop this madness 100%. They need to make it reasonable, and it needs to be data-driven. I have driven out Lobsinger Line and trying to abide by the rules by slowing down quickly, and have had people come right up my rear end and suddenly pass me, making it what I consider an unsafe situation when cars are coming in the other direction.
Yeah, it's even less safe now than it reportedly or allegedly was before they lowered the speed limit.
Now, In other regions, near Stratford, for example, there's a school there where they have the flashing lights, and it's only active when school is in session.
Yep.
That's the model they need to be taking, what other regions in Ontario are doing.
I agree completely, Brad. I have no idea why we don't do that. No idea.
Now, I'd like to say one more thing.
Sure.
I think that the region is missing out on the elephant in the room as far as student safety is concerned, and that is dealing with school buses and cars blowing school bus stop arms when students are loading and unloading all the time.
Really well said, Brad. Appreciate your call on the show this morning. The flashing light thing, I've been talking about on this show for years already. Why we're not there here, I have no idea. Lee, good morning.
Hey, Mike, how are you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I don't believe you that you don't know what the reason is for this, because obviously the reason is it's a cash grab. Karen Redmond and like the rest of those councillors just need to, we need wholesale change in the region. It's just out of control. They have this attitude of like, we know better than the citizens and we're going to show you how to live a good life. And it's just like, that's not what you're elected for. Like, things cost so much money and you guys do like double-digit tax increases year over year. You just can't get your spending in order or even understand what the citizens want, and they just don't care. So they just keep doing these things. And like, speed cameras, I totally agree. Like, it's pretty obvious. Like, put up some flashing lights, maybe have speed cameras used in the zones when the lights are active. But other than that, it's just a cash grab that hurts people that are already struggling. Like, you could be rich and you're still struggling at this point. There's nobody that isn't having a hard time with the amount of cost increases, and the region's making it far worse.
Lee, I appreciate that call. You know, it's funny. You can be rich and still be struggling right now. I wonder what our definition of rich is today. Because I just saw a friend share on social media this morning a headline from 2014 talking about Canada's middle class being among the best paid or the highest wages in the world or close to it. Anyway, it was a very rosy picture of 2014, and it showed a guy loading groceries into his car who was making $24 an hour. You imagine, like, what does $24 an hour do for you today? In all honesty, that extrapolates to about $48,000 a year. How are you doing on $48K a year today? And this was a story in the New York Times back in 2014. Anyway, I agree also with where Lee is coming from here. And just think, like, the cost is, it's really a good one to make. And Randy alluded to this in our conversation. Dozens of new staff are being hired by the region to operate this program. And I asked this question before. If it works and we all slow down, like, I understand that's the intent, and that's a noble intent here. But if the program is successful in slowing down drivers so that there aren't this many tickets being processed day over day, week over week, month over month, year over year, what the hell are we doing with the 30-plus employees that we hired? And what are we doing with their wages? Are we just going to absorb them into another department in the region and pay for that through our taxes? Lee raises a good point in that regard, too. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just ahead of our update in the 570 News Center, let's get right back to the phones. Hear one more on speed cameras. Gary, good morning.
Yeah, hey, good morning, Mike. I'm Gary. I also spoke yesterday morning at the Regional Council meeting along with Randy. So I thought I'd wait kind of to the end of your little segment on it here so I could, get in a
all right, I'm short on time. Make it get to, what do you want to say about it, Gary?
Well, I just I guess reiterating everything that that Randy was saying, but yeah, it definitely has created a dangerous situation down there with what they've done with the speed limit. So I guess we'll hold it off at that. And Randy spoke well for us this morning anyway, and yesterday as well. So thanks very much for putting us on and bringing this subject further into the light for us. Thanks,
Gary. I appreciate that, and kudos to each of you. I know the people who presented, who delegated. We're just a small collection of the hundreds of people who signed a petition, but clearly folks got themselves organized, and that's impressive. And that's what we need to do sometimes, isn't it? So kudos to each and every one of you for getting organized, making your presentations, making them logically, making them passionately. And I think in this particular case, getting some movement on the part of Regional Council. And I think it's important movement to be getting. We're going to be checking in with the Blackstone reporter and minding Ottawa's business right after this update from the 570 News Center. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Every Wednesday morning at this time, we have the opportunity for a chat with the managing editor at the Blacklocks Reporter, minding Ottawa's business. I encourage you to check out blacklocks.ca, and it's a subscription-based news outlet that does terrific work, doing some of the things that we don't get in other places. Its managing editor is Tom Korski, joins us on the program every Wednesday morning at 10. Morning, Tom.
Morning, Mike.
I want to look at a couple of the tax proposals that have come out during this campaign of late. And I absolutely love what you put together around the multi-unit residential building tax that Mark Carney would like to resurrect. On the surface, yeah, we were building lots of homes then, but I'm not sure this would work out as planned for Mr. Carney and the Liberals.
It was sort of a strange suggestion. This is a program invented back in 1974. Even the Liberal finance minister in the day, Alan McEachin, got rid of it in 1981. McEachin, by the way, is like the Vincent Price of finance ministers, this sort of ghoulish character from the past. You never hear him discussed. We've seen cabinet minutes from the day. McEachin was a disaster in finance. But Mark Carney likes the cut of his jib, and he came up with, yesterday, resurrecting this multi-unit residential building tax incentive program. What is it? It is a tax shelter for speculators and promoters. Why did they get rid of it in the first place? Well, it was very expensive. It cost taxpayers the equivalent, according to a consultant in the day, this is 45 years ago, it cost taxpayers the equivalent, modern equivalent, of $11,000 for every apartment built. What did CMHC advisors say? They said, look, the apartments were going to get built anyway. We don't really know how effective it was. And the biggest winners were wealthy investors and promoters. It was a game show win for speculators in real estate, which everyone agrees today is the last thing the market needs is more speculators.
And this is certainly not going to do anything to distance Carney from the idea that he is some kind of global elite, because the wealthy could very well get wealthier with this.
And there's an element to, I don't think this is a partisan remark, Mike. The government doesn't have to do anything to solve the housing crisis. This has been demonstrated in the past. Builders want to build homes and people want to buy them. So approve the permits. All you have to do is build subdivisions and you'll sell them, and you solve your supply problem. The fact that the government has tried to direct what kind of construction there should be, where it should be, whether it should be climate friendly, is the reason you have a housing shortage in a country of 3 billion acres with 300 billion trees. We're not an island in the Pacific. It's inconceivable that anyone in your town or any town Canada can't buy whatever they can afford. It's an entirely man-made shortage.
On the along the same lines of reforming when it comes to taxes, and Pierre Poilievre is saying, listen, no more of these offshore havens. I'm going to get Canada Revenue Agency to focus on those havens and leave small businesses and charities alone. That's what the Conservative leader is pledging to do.
Long-time research, the Canada Revenue Agency, Mike, is constantly doing focus group research. It's ironic, I know. People say that they're the big machine, they're the unfeeling monster. But they actually are quite concerned about what people think about them because they pay pollsters hundreds of thousands a year to hold focus groups. Every single time this comes up in a focus group, they get the same response from taxpayers, bookkeepers, small business owners. Lay off on the penny ante GST audits. Why don't you go after the big fish? Quote, end of quote, as one focus group report put it. Go go after the big fish, not the little fish. And the Canada Revenue Managers have been asked about this in parliamentary committee. Every time they're asked, they say, well, they don't put it this bluntly, but they say, well, there's a lot of small businesses. There's a lot of students claiming moving receipts, Mike, and if we could, it's very efficient for us to go after the little fish. They can't hire tax attorneys. Half the time they've lost their receipts. They actually quantified this. 5 years ago, they had a report, audit yield. For every GST audit on a small business, the Canada Revenue Agency gets back about $6. For every audit of a wealthier taxpayer based on income, the average return is $5. And the really complicated cases can take years, said an agency memo. You don't have to be Nostradamus to see where this is going. They like to go after the easy pickings.
It just makes you wonder who's in charge here. I mean, how they ended up where they ended up to go after these small fish and the easy pickings when there is so little return on it.
Canada Revenue Agency, my 2 cents, is one of the most unsupervised federal agencies. It's huge. This is a statistic. This always floors Canadians, but it's true. Proportionately, Canada has more auditors per taxpayer than there are in the United Kingdom or the United States. It's not even close. The Canada Revenue Agency is second in size only to the Department of National Defense, the Army, Navy, and Air Force. It's huge. They have over 47,000 employees, and yet when you look at the cabinet oversight of them, it's typically poor. When you look at the response in terms of return in going after offshore account holders that have been identified, they call it the tax gap. The Parliamentary Budget Office has said the tax gap, that is, taxes owed and never collected, is $40 billion a year. This isn't from students who are fudging on moving receipts or small businesses who forgot a GST payment. That's big money, and it's big companies, and they're not interested.
It's only. Don't worry, the CRA has only ballooned by 19,000 employees and 48% over the last decade, Tom. We'll be fine. Everything's fine. Okay, you got me on this. I couldn't possibly resist because you and I both know that politics is a blood sport, and I think anybody involved in it intuitively recognizes that. But this campaign may be a little too rough for the Greens?
It's hurt some feelings, apparently. Their party manager, their national party manager, says, I've been running campaigns for 15 years. I've never seen anything like it. For instance, he said, well, we have volunteers. People have said hurtful things to them. Tears, he said. There's hurled abuse. They're coming back to the office saying, I never want to canvass again. And unfortunately, they don't name names. They didn't name ridings. They didn't name who were the bad people who were hurting feelings. You can't but forget, though, that in the 19th century, we never had a national election where they didn't call out the militia, Mike. I mean, they really played it rough in the 19th century. And I think if Johnny MacDonald was here today and a green canvasser said, someone said well, it was quite rude and it hurt my feelings, and it made me cry, I think I could imagine what he would say.
I think I could probably put a sentence or two together on that front, too. Tom,
it would have been wittier than anything I could say.
Absolutely true. Great to talk to you, as always. We'll talk again in a week's time.
Thank you, Mike.
Cheers. Tom Korski is the managing editor with the Blacklocks Reporter. Online, blacklocks.ca. Really does some great work there. Lots of folks that I used to know in this business are now over there with, through Canadian Press, and Tom's got a long-standing history in media and reporting, particularly around governments, and they do some great work. It's subscription-based, but well worth it. Blacklocks.ca. Just along those lines of the things that are said during canvassing, during campaigning, the things that are said during elections. I heard something this morning that, had I not been driving, I might have stopped in my tracks, but it definitely caught my ear. And I thought to myself, this is who's in charge right now? These are the people we are putting in positions of power? I wonder what you think about it. We'll find out, and we'll play the audio coming up. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. All right, so picture this. I'm driving to work this morning. It's still dark. Don't worry, I have my eyes open and my full headlight system on. And I'm listening to All News Mornings with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas. And I hear a story presented by our reporter, Jamie Pulfer. And it is about the escalating tariff war, the 104% levies on China, now implemented by the United States. But it also contained a clip of U.S. President Donald Trump speaking at the National Republican Congressional Committee dinner. And this is the clip that almost stopped me dead in my tracks on Highway 78 this morning.
I know what I'm doing. These countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir.
Listen, I know you're speaking to a room full of like-minded individuals. It's like a Republican Party convention almost. But it struck me, like, this is the president of the United States. And look, you're welcome to come at me and criticize me because I am that guy. Look, I grew up in this town. It's a very small C conservative town. I came through our Catholic school system right up through high school, and I've been known to push the envelope on this show. I don't exactly have, let me put it this way. If I were still 12 or 13 in the era that I grew up, some of the things that I say on this show might get my mouth washed out with soap. I acknowledge that, okay? But I'm also not the president of the United States of America.
I know what I'm doing. These countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir.
I just ask you, is this the kind of language, is this the demeanor that we expect from a world leader? Take any president from history and ask yourself how that would have gone over. And wait, there's more. That's the president of the United States at the National Republican Congressional Committee dinner. This is the leader of our federal Conservative Party here in Canada in an exchange yesterday with a reporter after Pierre Poilievre had made his announcement about going after those tax cheats, which I support. I'm fully behind it. But then he gets into this back and forth with Laura Stone from the Globe and Mail.
How many people do you think we had last night?
Thousands.
Well, that's pretty obvious. I think you can be more precise than that.
I don't. I mean, the party said 10,000 registered. There's reports of 15. I really can't say.
One last question. When was the last time we had a rally that big in Canada?
I don't know. I've never been to a political rally that big, I don't think.
You know a lot about politics.
Well,
you're a very well-informed person. I know that if there were a bigger rally than that, you would know about it. I think so.
I just want to know why. It's so snarky. It's so condescending. And I know. Liberal leader Mark Carney to Rosemary Barton of the CBC. Look inside yourself, Rosie. I get it. But I'm asking again. I mean, this is somebody who would like to be our prime minister. And he's taking questions, some questions, because we know how tightly controlled Conservative Party media events have been. But this is the way you deal with a reporter. With Canada's national newspaper, I might add. It's so snarky. It's so snarky. So you've got snark on the one side, and as if you could not possibly care less if this reporter is in the room. And then you've got kissing my ass, they're begging to make a deal, please, sir, from the President of the United States. And it just occurred to me, this is just me driving to work this morning. This is what we get from people who would like to have the highest political office in the land. My, oh my, how the bar has been lowered. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I know what I'm doing. These countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir.
Sean tags me on X at Farwell_WR. Donald Trump is a world-class something, all right, but he's no leader. You can bet on that. He is, though. I mean, politically speaking, he's the leader of the world's greatest superpower, and that's the way he addressed. I mean, again, it's a receptive audience, to be sure, but I just found the language striking, if not jarring. This is what we're getting from our leadership, either in office or contending to be in office. And I find it a little bit disheartening, I guess I'll say. Let's go to the phones. Bob, good morning.
Hey, morning, Mikey.
Good morning, Bobby.
Dude, this guy, everybody kind of forgets of what he is. You know, he's just basically a convicted felon. He's a convicted voyeur. So, I mean, the guy shouldn't even be out on the street to begin with. But what kind of pisses me off about Poilievre is he doesn't want to know any secrets. He doesn't want to know any of that stuff, because if he does, then he's got absolutely nothing to talk about. That's what I get pissed off about that guy.
All right, Bob, I appreciate the call. And here again, I might just suggest, and some will say, I get it. Some will say, boy, the bar's really been lowered on AM talk radio because you say pissed off not once but twice. And I just added a third time in quoting what Bob said. Again, I get it. I'm no prude when it comes to language and how we use it, okay? I hang around a lot of hockey arenas. I've heard some things, and I promise you, I have engaged in some things. But I just find it from the highest levels of political office to be disheartening is all. I don't understand it. If it's a strategy, I'm not in on the strategy, nor would I support such a strategy. But it definitely caught my ear this morning, and I just wondered how you felt about the language being used by our leaders in politics today, on both sides of the border, just in the last 24 hours. One from whom you just heard, and the other who gets rather snarky with reporters at a media conference. I don't think you're helping, and my best friend always said, you're either helping or you're hurting. Take your pick. That same friend, by the way, also told me when we got together the other night that he will not vote Conservative because Pierre Poilievre called Justin Trudeau a wacko. I know that's going back a while, but my buddy, he knows how to hold on to a grudge. But he said, if that's the kind of language you're going to use, if that's the way you're going to behave, you don't get my vote. And he says he's hoping that the Conservative candidate comes and visits his door so he can tell them that in person. There you go. That's just one dissatisfied, disaffected voter right now. An update from the 570 News Center is coming up. And then in the next 30 minutes, what a rich history of hockey refereeing in Guelph and how you can feed a hungry tummy. That's coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio. An upcoming gala and concert in Waterloo will help you feed a hungry tummy. And here to talk more about it with us this morning, a couple of the conveners of this upcoming gala, Karen Goddard being one of them. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Mike.
And Karen brings along a fellow Karen. So we're going to go with Karen G and Karen F for the purposes of this conversation because Karen Falkenstern is with us as well. Good morning, Karen F.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having us.
It is great to have you both on the show, both members of our wonderful May Court Club of KW. Karen G, why don't we start with that? Tell us more about the May Court Club and what it is that you do.
Well, the May Court Club is a very large group of women that want to make a difference in the community by assisting women, the needs of women and children. And we have a lot of different programs going on that we do fundraise and raise funds for that very purpose. Later in the year, we're looking at our Christmas Dreams that we have every year at Conestoga Mall, and that's been a very successful event for us. This fundraiser that we're doing, our concert and dance at St. George's Hall, is new for us, very new for us. So it's very exciting to have such a good start to this and your wonderful support with this event.
Karen F., can you give us a little more background on this upcoming gala? How did the idea come about?
Well, the other Karen got the idea based on the cystic fibrosis gala that I know you attended in November because I saw you there. And we thought with all the hungry tummies in the schools these days, with the need of all the food bank requests, that we could raise some money and be able to help these kids. Because if they're not eating, they're hungry and they aren't learning.
So, Karen F., it's just from following the news, what we hear through Nutrition for Learning, what we hear through Food for Kids, you know, the federal government talking about a school lunch program. This is something that you identified as a need that you wanted as the May Court Club to fill.
Correct. And it's something that's been going on. The May Court has been delivering food boxes to schools since the mid-1980s, long before the other programs were around. There were a couple of members whose husbands were principals and teachers, and they realized that their kids were, their students were hungry, and so they started, making food at home and bringing it for them, and then it's evolved into these food boxes that get delivered by our members.
That's great. I love everything that you do as a group. You're a real force in the community and a force for good, which we need more of for sure. Karen G., what can we expect on May 3rd at St. George Banquet Hall? What will the spring gala and concert look like?
Okay, so when you arrive at 5 o'clock, there's registration. We are serving complimentary champagne and mimosas, and there's hors d'oeuvres that are stationed in the room. We're offering a delicious buffet and a concert with the Windjammer Pop Ensemble. We have photo booths for your entertainment and a little bit of fun. We have a large silent auction. We have some Fred Astaire dancers that are coming in to entertain. And the end of the evening, we have a DJ, lots of door prizes as well. So it's a very exciting evening for everybody that attends.
You know, Karen G., you talked about some of the other things that the May Court Club is involved in, including that wonderful Christmas Dreams that happens every year at Conestoga Mall. How are you feeling about embarking on this new adventure here?
It's exciting. When we first talked about it, we thought putting a dance together and a concert, this would be an easy, simple affair because we both have been conveners for the Christmas Dream. So this has been a lot more work and a lot more exciting things to do and taking us in many different directions as far as the entertainment and getting silent auction gifts and going down that road, which is new as far as the opportunity for a different concert idea, too.
It sounds like a great night. And Karen F., I think the other important thing to learn is where can we get tickets to enjoy this spring gala and concert to help feed a hungry tummy?
Well, if you'd like to go to our website, which is www.maycourtclubofkw.org, the ticket purchasing information is on there. The tickets are $150 per person, and you can secure a table for 8 for $1,200, which would be reserved with your name on, so that everyone can sit together, obviously.
Have you...
Mike, I'd like to add that
Yes.
Just today I've received an email from a major Canadian airline that is going to be giving us a voucher for some flights. Unfortunately, I can't tell you who it is yet because of marketing restrictions, but I'm very happy to say that we have them as a sponsor.
So that will be one of the potential prizes that are there?
You got it.
Okay. I like that, Karen G. I like that. Karen F., have you set a target? Are you hoping to raise a certain amount? This is the first time out, I understand, but...
It is our inaugural event, and, we have a really lofty amount that we'd like to raise, and we're thinking around $10,000 would be, wonderful. And if we can reach that or surpass it, that would be great.
Well, I have a feeling, because you and your fellow members of the May Court Club of KW are such a force for good, that if you don't get there, you're going to get awfully close. I think it's great, and I hope we'll point people in the direction to join you on May the 3rd. Thank you both for everything that you do and for making time for the show this morning.
Thank you very much, Mike. That's wonderful.
Thanks for having us, Mike.
Cairns, Falkenstern, and Goddard join us this morning. They are with the May Court Club of KW, and they are the co-conveners for the upcoming Spring Gala and concert. It happens on May the 3rd at St. George Banquet Hall in Waterloo. You heard the ladies explain it's $150 a ticket, or reserve that table of 8 for $1,200, and you will be helping to feed those hungry tummies in our community. If you want to learn more and purchase those tickets, just go to maycourtclubofkw.org. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, do you know how rich the history of refereeing is in the city of Guelph? If you ever go through the Guelph Sports Hall of Fame, which is right in I guess in the mall where the arena is, the Sleeman Center, you might be amazed at the names there. Dvorsky's there, Scapinello's there, so many more are there. The Guelph Hockey Referees Association is turning 75 years, and that's cause for celebration, right? We'll talk about it coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I just want to go over some of these names for you. Ray Scapinello, Ken Bodenistel. Oh, Kenny. Oh, loved getting to know him through my time in the OHL. Bill McCreary, Paul and Greg Dvorsky, Ron Asselstein. These are just a handful of the names that have gone on to become NHL officials who got their start with the Guelph Hockey Referees Association. That association in Guelph is now celebrating 75 years, and here to talk more about it, a couple of members, Steve Wagner being one of them. Steve, good morning.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thank you for having us on today.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for making the time for the show. Steve brings with them Ron Kelleher, who is here as well. Ron, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm excellent. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Good. Now, tell me the truth, Ron. Is this the most pleasant conversation you've ever had with anybody?
It is.
Yeah, because on the ice, right, I got to think, as somebody that does the work that you do, it's a much different situation, isn't it?
It is, for sure.
Steve, talk about a little bit more about your journey, if you would. You're coming up on 30 years now as a referee?
I am. I started originally in my 20s. Well, originally I started when I was about 16. One of the referees we had sort of recruited a couple of us and started then. And then as you get in your teens, different priorities come about. So I stopped for a while. Then it was about 28 and got back into it. I thought it was a good way to keep fit and get some exercise and sort of give back to the game, and just been doing it ever since.
Has there ever been a point along the way where, it's been a particularly tough game, maybe coaches or fans are being particularly difficult on you, and you think to yourself, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time?
Yeah, you go through that a lot. You just wonder, why am I doing this? And then you sort of sit back, and then you have games that are like, man, I feel really good about what I did out there. I had a good game. Everybody was happy, or maybe not so happy because if you make the whole crowd mad, I guess you're doing a good job because you're, everybody's mad at you. So at least you've sort of distributed it equally.
Exactly. If both sides are mad, you must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Ron, I listed off some of the names, Scapinello, Dvorsky, McCreary, and the list just goes on. Is there any explanation for how Guelph has churned out so many of these well-known, highly regarded, high-profile referees?
I think it goes back to our founding members, people like Lou Macho, who had already had a reputation in the OHA at that time, come back and help people like Bill Dvorsky to develop, and it just grew from there. and one person would help somebody, and then that person would help somebody else. And then all of a sudden we had a group of people that was always there for each other. And if you get into a situation on the ice and needed to talk to anybody, they were the people to go to. They had all the answers.
You know, I like what you just said there about people who are there for each other, because I know it's a tight-knit group. Hockey associations like the Guelph Hockey Referees Association certainly help. What is it, Ron, that makes a good referee?
I think a good referee, first of all, has to believe in what he's doing. When he decides he's going to be a referee and put that sweater on, he's already made one commitment. His next commitment is joining the association and getting recognized for a level, and then going on the ice and going through not just the motions, going through what you've learned up until then. And the ideal thing is when the game is over, you take one thing from that game and you take that into the next game and perfect what you're doing from there and move on.
I think that's the key, isn't it, Ron? And I'm not sure every fan understands the work that goes into this, the feedback that referees get, and then how they take that. It's constant learning into the next game.
It sure is.
Steve, you are celebrating 75 years as a referees association. How does that number land with you?
I'm amazed at it. I just think back of what it must have been like in the early days. Like, the founding members, a lot of they would just do for free. Like they would just come out on a Saturday morning and just referee for free, and then it's just developed. And I'm just the people that have come through and the friendships that have been made, and I think it's just an amazing association to be part of, and just a dynamic that you don't see a lot of and you don't get to be a part of. So I think it's pretty special to be part of this group.
End of next month, on the 31st of May, you will be holding a gala to celebrate those 75 years. What should we know, Steve? How can we support the work that you're doing for this gala?
I think Ron's the sort of heading the committee to do that. So I think he has a bit better of understanding. I'm just kind of one of the minions that are helping out and reaching out to people to try and spread the word. But Ron's sort of taking the bull by the horns, and he has a better understanding of what needs to be done and how to contact, and he's the person to get a hold of.
How can we do that, Ron?
Well, right now we're waiting on the tickets to be printed. I talked to the printer yesterday, and she was telling me that the tickets will be ready sometime Friday afternoon. So I will have them at our annual general meeting on Friday night. And the tickets are going to be available. They're $75 a piece, and it includes roast beef dinner and dance at the Italian Canadian Club in Guelph. It starts at 7 o'clock at night. The doors open at 6:30.
All right. So May the 31st, the Italian Canadian Club in Guelph. What a great venue. Perfect. $75 a ticket, and those tickets will become available at the annual general meeting this week. Will they be available online at any time, Ron, or do people have to get in touch with you in order to get their hands on the tickets?
We're hoping to get it online. Right now, we're just getting the tickets all together and the finalization of the AGM. But hopefully by Monday or Tuesday, we will have something online that people will be able to go to. Okay.
I will point folks to guelphhockeyreferees.ca as a website to learn more about the association. I've really gained a greater appreciation for the job that fellows and women now too in our Ontario Hockey League that you people do for the game. So I think I'd be remiss if I let you go without a story that stands out as particularly memorable, good or bad, from one of those times on the ice. Steve, what about you?
Oh, that's you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. I had a mom one time basically yell over the stands, "I'm going to kick the blanket of your seeing eye dog," and that always stuck with me. And I'm just the sort of the things you hear come out of people's mouths. It's always there's always something new that gets you. And I guess there's other things, but I guess being put on the spot like that's sort of what first came to mind.
That's not a bad chirp, though. I mean, I love dogs, but at least she wasn't threatening you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Ron, what about you?
I think the most memorable is when I was doing the novice and peewees, and the kids were just learning to skate. They didn't know a lot about the game, and you try to be focused on the game, but you also try to focus on what the players are doing and trying to coach them while you're refereeing. And going off the ice and the parents say, "Good game," pat you on the back. Those are memories that, never leave your mind.
Guys, congratulations on 75 years. I hope the gala is a resounding success, and thanks for joining us to talk more about the Guelph Hockey Referees Association and the work that you do. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Ron Kelleher, Steve Wagner joining us on the program this morning, couple of members of the Guelph Hockey Referees Association. Just again, think about some of those names: Scapinello, Dvorsky, Asselstein, McCreary, all out of Guelph, all on to NHL officiating careers. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just ahead of your 11 a.m. update in the 570 News Center. Do not forget, 30 minutes from now, we debut a new weekly feature on this show called Political R&D. Yeah, maybe some research and development so we can better understand the goings-on inside our municipal governments. But the R&D in this case stand for Rob and Deutschmann. He's got some political experience. He'll be joining us Wednesday mornings at 11:30 for Political R&D starting this morning. But of course also, since it's Wednesday, our very own Ian Hunter, the Blue Jay Hunter, joins us after this update from the 570 News Center. It's a good time to be talking Blue Jays baseball. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio.
The Whiz Kids had won it, Bobby Thompson had done it, and Yogi read the comics all the while. Rock and roll was being born, marijuana we would scorn. So down on the corner the national pastime went on trial. We're talking baseball, Klazuski, Campanella, talking baseball. The man and Bobby Fella, the Scooter, the Barber and the Nuke. They knew them all from Boston to Dubuque, especially Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
I love this theme more than any other theme that we have for a segment on this show. It just takes you back. Baseball, the national pastime. In Canada too, don't you know, because we have a team, Canada's team, which promises to at least try to be a good team for the next decade and a half. I think that's fair to say. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about George Springer's blistering start to the season, and we'll hear from you if you'd like to participate as our very own Blue Jay Hunter, Ian Hunter, in studio with us. And Jen, you're going to have to switch. He's one more mic over from where he started here. If you can see Jen is on the other side of the glass, and she's going to figure out what microphone Ian is on. I think she's got it. Morning, Hunsey.
Hey, how are you?
See? He's right there on the microphone.
Sorry, I'm being difficult. I'm being a diva here.
You
Sorry
really are.
that.
Why did you pull the microphone from over there to come over here?
This is better feng shui for me. I don't know. Next week I'll not mess it up. Sorry.
Right. One thing the Blue Jays are not doing is messing up lately, unless you want to get into the nitpicking of runners with scoring position over the weekend. But we'll leave that for now.
Yes.
Come on. You said this on our first segment this year, which was 2 weeks ago. You were oozing optimism about the Jays signing Vladdy, and I'm like, is this guy nuts? And here we are, 14 years and $500 million later.
I know. I'm actually kind of surprised. I'm not surprised that it happened, but I'm surprised that it happened this quickly. It felt like, because Vladdy had that self-imposed deadline right before spring training, that came and went. But then we heard Mark Shapiro saying a few weeks ago, I think a deal is going to get done. And he never speaks with that much conviction about stuff. So it sounded like the two really wanted to hammer something out. I thought this might be something where they get it done maybe at the All-Star break or at the end of the year. But all the leaks that were coming out, I thought, okay, where there's smoke, there's fire. And we said this at the end of last year. I said the first piece of business the Blue Jays need to do is lock this guy up. So it came a little late, but it got done. And I think most Blue Jays fans are happy. Like, yeah, that's a ton of money, $500 million for one guy. who's 26 years old, but I think guys like this don't come around very often. And we've seen the last couple of years their failed pursuits for Shohei Ohtani and trying to sign Juan Soto, Corbin Burns, the list goes on and on and on. You've got a guy who's been with your team since he was 16 years old, and he wants to stay here. He's got a lot of clout in the city. I think it only made sense for them to get this done. So now we just wait for the official announcement. But yeah, sounds like he's going to be a Blue Jay for the rest of his life.
How does this deal for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. stack up against other big deals the Blue Jays have made?
Well, I mean, I think it's over 3 times bigger than the next highest contract, which was George Springer's 106-year, $150 million deal. And when you talk about that, you think I can't wrap my head around this kind of money. It's just insane. Like Juan Soto almost signed for $800 million this past offseason. But, it's weird because baseball is not a salary cap league, right? You can just sign guys to whatever you want. And now the sexy thing in baseball is deferrals. You can defer money. There's no deferred money on this contract at all. Vladdy is getting $500 million. And he's going to be making, it's around $35 million a year. But when you stack it up against, there's a lot of other guys. There's Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, Alex Bregman, Zach Wheeler are all making north of $40 million. It's an AAV per season. So Vladdy's is actually quite below that. But this is the cost of what it is to sign elite players in today's landscape of Major League Baseball. If the Blue Jays weren't going to sign him to $500 million, I'm sure there was another team that would have done it this offseason. And it's just getting bigger and bigger. Contracts are not going down. They're only going up. And it's a ton of money. But when you spread it out over 14 years, not as much money, I guess.
Well, but you also just said something I think is critically important in this, Ian, and that is contracts are only going up. We know that. And I recognize that it's impossible to say who or what or how healthy Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is 10 years from now, much less 14 years from now. But you can bet your bottom dollar that $35 million-ish a year, 10 years from now, is going to seem like a bargain.
Of course. Yeah. and you look at it, the Blue Jays are a top 5 payroll team this year. I don't know their exact amount. I think they're around, 250, 260. $35 million of 260, that's not half your team's payroll. That's basically what an elite player is. And I think the most important part about this deal to me is that it signals that the Blue Jays are here to contend. Because at the end of this year, you had Vladdy potentially becoming a free agent, Bo Bichette potentially becoming a free agent. A lot of the starting pitchers, Jose Barrios, Kevin Gausman, could be free agents next year. If this year goes sideways, Blue Jays could be trading those guys, and now you're starting a rebuild. But to sink $500 million into one guy, now you've got a franchise player. This is a guy that you can build your team around for the foreseeable future. And it's also a recruiting tool as well. I think that's probably one reason why the Blue Jays had so much trouble luring free agents, because they kind of saw the writing on the wall. They said, if Vladdy's not going to be here in a year, why am I going to spend the next 10, 12 years of my career with all these unknowns? So now he's a tentpole guy. He's going to be the face of your franchise for the next 14 years. Maybe that convinces a few other guys to come to Toronto in the next couple of years. We saw Anthony Santander sign as well. So I think it's when the official announcement is made, it's a landmark announcement for this franchise for sure.
Ian Hunter is the Blue Jay Hunter. He joins us every Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock, to talk some Blue Jays baseball, and there is plenty of reason to be optimistic right now about Blue Jays baseball. We continue the conversation on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. In studio with Ian Hunter. He is the Blue Jay Hunter. We talk some Blue Jays baseball every Wednesday morning at this time with Ian, and you are always welcome to be part of the conversation. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Just one more thing on Vladdy, Ian, and that is the idea that, and I said it just a little bit facetiously about this team will be a winning team, or at least it hopes to be, plans to be, for the next decade and a half. But you alluded to this. In all reality, that's kind of what we're looking at here, right? You talk about Vladdy being a tent pole, might attract other players, etc. You're not signing a guy for 14 years if you don't intend on using him to build around.
Yeah, absolutely. This is his 6th year, incredibly, with the Blue Jays. Only 26 years old. This new contract will put him through his age 40 season. Will he be here at age 39 and 40 with the Blue Jays? I have no idea. But this deal, you're propping open the window of contention. You are saying, okay, we're carrying this over and you're going to build. Why would you sign a guy and not add pieces to that team? It doesn't make sense. So to me, I think this kind of squashes the notion that any rebuild is coming for the Blue Jays in the near future, because I think, if anything, they flex their financial muscle, and that's what they should be doing, is spending money, not necessarily battling against like the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, but that's what you have to do in this division is, unless you're the Tampa Bay Rays and doing it on a shoestring budget, you have to spend to win. So it's a great, I always thought a deal needed to get done. I realize Vladdy has not hit a home run yet. He's kind of, the timing of it is not great. His bat will turn around. He will hit a home run. But I think ultimately Jays fans will be happy when this deal is said and done. All right, let me springboard off that. Vladdy has not hit a home run. This team is, are the Blue Jays suddenly playing small ball? Single? It's bizarre. Yeah, the other night they had, 12 singles? 12 singles, 1 extra base hit. Their home runs have been hit by Andres Jimenez, George Springer, and Tyler Heineman. They have 6 total as a team. That's the fewest, tied for fewest in Major League Baseball. I don't know what it is. Is it a cold weather thing? Like, they're in a lot of outdoor stadiums right now. They're playing in freezing temperatures. So maybe I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But at some point, the top 3 in the order is going to deliver. I mean, Bo Bichette, he's putting the bat on the ball on everything, right? He's just not hitting for power. It's Vladdy and Anthony Santander, the big offseason signing that hasn't really delivered yet. Santander is typically a slow starter. He doesn't have great numbers in the month of April. I think once the weather or the calendar flips to May, I think he'll probably turn it on. So, but it would be nice to see some home runs. Like, this team has a ton of potential for power, and it's frustrating. I say this with a caveat. They win these games, yes, but they're doing it with, singles, doubles, wild pitches and whatnot. I think at some point they got to start doing damage here.
Maybe they should get some torpedo bats.
David Schneider, one of their players, does have a torpedo bat. George Springer, I don't know if you wanted to ask me about him, but he's one guy he's off the rails, super hot right now.
I definitely wanted to ask about him because I was worried that we were going to lose him for a spell when he went crashing into the wall, and I think it was in New York.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh gosh, here goes fragile Springer again, but he's tearing the cover off the ball right now.
It's crazy. This is something I didn't foresee. I thought at the beginning of the season, I felt like this is the beginning of the end of George Springer, because last year was below average offensively for him. He's 35 years old, which, still a spring chicken, but in Major League Baseball, you're getting up there at 35. But yeah, his exit velocity, his hard hit rate, he's pulling the ball more than back to like his career norms, which is how he does damage. And the funny thing is his swing speed, not to get all baseball nerdy here, but his swing speed is actually slower. He's swinging the bat slower this year than he did last year, and yet he's making better contact. So in my head, I'm wondering, is this guy have a torpedo bat? Because he's like a night and day difference. So I don't know if he's going to keep this up the rest of the year. I think if he produces anything above league average offense, that is a win for the Blue Jays. But can you imagine if this dude discovers the fountain of youth? It's just all of a sudden the Blue Jays have a cleanup hitter, which they haven't had for several years now.
Absolutely. One of the other things that jumps out at me, at least early returns, no Max Scherzer, no problem for this rotation?
Apparently so. I guess Easton Lucas is now the new staff ace of the Toronto Blue Jays.
Say that again? Easton Lucas.
Yeah.
I just want so we remember his name. I mean,
it's when you're writing the story of the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays, is he an integral figure in this team? I don't know, but it's still a really cool story. And he now has outdueled Mackenzie Gore and Garrett Crochet in his first 2 big league games. He hits the Nationals last week. He has 5.1 innings of scoreless ball against the Red Sox last night, 8 strikeouts. And I think the league, at some point, the league is going to adjust to him, because typically when pitchers come in and they've never been a starting pitcher before, the pitcher typically has the advantage because there's not much tape on them. But once the league starts to adjust, I think if we get to a point where Easton Lucas is making maybe his 5th, 6th, 7th start, I think, the tide is probably going to turn. And maybe at that point, Max Scherzer is back in the starting rotation. But it's an incredible story so far. I mean, this guy, was he on he wasn't on my radar. I don't think he was on anyone's radar. So the fact that he's already produced 2 decent starts, I think it's found money for the Blue Jays right now.
It's nice to have these unexpected stories. An Easton Lucas, George Springer hitting the way he is, Vladdy signing the contract. I mean, I was very pessimistic, Ian, coming into this season. Very pessimistic. Yep. And this is plenty of reason to give people reason to feel otherwise.
I know. I realize it's early. We're only into April, first month of the season, but you've got a lot of, despite the underperformance of a lot of key guys, there's others like a George Springer and Easton Lucas who are stepping up and contributing to this team. And I think that's ultimately the big guys are going to give you the big numbers, your Vladdy, your Bo, your Santander. But you do need your glue guys, as you would say, to kind of chip in and contribute as well. And it's been incredible to watch so far.
All right, your traffic report is coming up. I'm already late, but Kyle is here. Let's squeeze in one before we let Blue Jay Hunter go. Kyle, good morning.
Good morning. I'll be quick. We had such a great spring training. We won the championship there, and I'm just curious. I know that we have such an amazing start for the season, but do you really think that Vladdy is worth $500 million? Because I'm a little worried. The reason why is I know he's such a great baseball player and stuff, but what if this turns into a flop? Like, what if he's having a great couple of years and all of a sudden you're looking at his numbers and he just tanked? Then what happens? Is that going to be really attractive to Toronto? Like, I understand. I'm a huge Vladdy fan. I'm a huge Jays fan. I just am a little nervous about how much money we have forked out on this, and I just want your opinion on it. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. I mean, yeah, it's a ton of money. If it was my money, would I be... I mean, it's not my money.
It's our money. Well, we work for a Rogers-owned radio station.
Technically, so it's fine.
There goes our Christmas bonus.
This is the thing. There's always there's risk on both sides. There's the risk of this going sideways for Vladdy. He could, be injured in a couple years, but he could also take off and become a perennial MVP. And as you said earlier, I mean, what is an MVP worth in Major League Baseball in 4 or 5 years? It's going to be worth far more than $50 million a season. And at that juncture, you've got him for about 35. So it's weird to say, but at $500 million in 14 years, it kind of is a bit of a value play for the Blue Jays. They're sinking a lot of term into one guy. But I think if you're the Blue Jays, you would rather have him than not have him. You would rather see him in a Blue Jays uniform than to turn around and he goes and signs with the Boston Red Sox and he kills you in these important divisional games for the next, 12, 14 years. Guys like these don't come around very often. And when they land in your lap like this, you got to take advantage of it and lock them up. And even if it means spending $500 million, you're probably going to regret that decision down the road. But he is that important to this Blue Jays organization right now that they needed to lock him in.
It's fun to talk Blue Jays when the skies are bright, and that's what they are right now. We'll see you in a week's time.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Ian Hunter is the Blue Jay Hunter, joins us every Wednesday morning at 11 to talk some Blue Jays baseball here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. He is here, the star of our new segment that begins today and then every Wednesday morning at 11:30 until he's had enough of me. But he's in studio. He's ready to go. We only bring you the best on this show. Political R&D R for Rob, D for Deutschmann. It's coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I saw her today at the reception. A glass of wine in her hand. I knew she was gonna meet her connection. At her feet was a footloose man.
I like the choice for theme song. I did not choose it, but the guest who is in studio with me, and I can get what I want because I asked Rob Deutschmann, I asked him, I may have begged, said, why don't you join me for a segment? Help us, see how the sauce is made in municipal government.
Well, I might not be here next week because I said Vladdy money and you said okay. So
Rogers apparently
I get the wheelbarrow out the door.
They're throwing around $500 million. So if Vladdy can have it, you can too. Hey, good morning. Thanks for doing this,
Michael. I'm very pleased to be here. I ran in the provincial election. I was unsuccessful. I lost. So, Brian Riddell, good guy. He got the trip to Disneyland, and I got the trip down Ira Needles.
You got the trip to the studio for the Mike Farwell Show. I think you're the bigger winner in that regard.
Okay, we'll go with that.
You've already been on the show more than Brian Riddell ever has. So.
I'm not getting into that.
I will.
I met Brian. Very nice guy. Very nice guy.
Okay. So the whole idea behind this is so that, as I said, we can maybe understand better how the sauce is made, because you are not only a very recently former now regional councillor, but of course you spent time as the mayor of North Dumfries, also on regional council then. So you bring some pretty deep experience over different generations, if I can say, of regional council.
And also, as you know, I do the Old Grey Mayor's podcast, and I've interviewed about 40 different politicians and staff, all municipal related. Some of them I've done multiple times. And so it's given me a pretty good understanding about what happens at local municipal governments. And I wanted to, and I'm glad you reached out, because I was thinking about a show like this where we would have an opportunity to take a look at some of the issues of the day, or talk about some other things like staff, council dynamics, and what's going on to help provide some better understanding. I mean, I looked at the record today, and the first headline is Kitchener to give the museum up to $900,000 as it tries to stay afloat. Well, there's Kitchener, City of Kitchener, there's Regional Waterloo implications there. I see quotes in there about one level of government is better off financially than the other level of government. There's a lot of dynamics that go into that, and that's quite a loaded statement. I see, the article closure of the CTS site sparks concerns, and so, what is going on behind that? And I know you wrote your editorial piece that's in there as well about energies being better spent. But, and I could talk about that too, about the fact that, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, meaning we can do multiple things. But, and talk about the dynamics there, because I watched the regional council meeting yesterday, and I could say I was having some flashbacks and some night sweats. But it was interesting to see what is happening at that council table, with our two-tier governance that we have here in the cities, which I feel have altered the dynamics from when I was there back in 2010. So I have the benefit of having been there in 2010 when you had people like, Tom Galloway, Jim Weidman, Ken Sealing, Sean Strickland, Gene Halboom, and others, right? I mean, when I look back at that, like 12 years ago, it's almost like a hall of fame of politicians when you consider the number of years that they've had in office. That
Jane
group.
Mitchell would have been there too.
Yeah, Jane Mitchell, Claudette Miller, Jane Brewer. I mean, these are like significant figures in our local political scene. And probably if you added it all up, it's like hundreds of years of governance experience. The current government, you see a lot of younger people. I say younger people. Everyone's getting more. Each passing year, they're getting more younger than us. But newer people who are there and applying the trade, and everyone has the same sort of basic view and philosophy: trying to do the best for your community. And I always joked about when you got elected, suddenly people said, oh, you're a politician. Well, no. I was something else for a long time before I became an elected representative, right? So politician was not my career. In my case, I always joked because, I'm a lawyer. And then when I became mayor, I'd always joke and say I wasn't sure whether any of those was an upgrade on the trust rung from a lawyer to a politician. But
it's not.
Yeah.
No offense. But
I don't know if they're the same. I don't know which one's higher or lower. But, the key point, though, is that these people are out there trying to do the best they can for the community. And there are so many dynamics. I mean, we've got, I saw Louisa D'Amato's article, talking about with Frank Boutsis from Conestoga College. And they're talking about the international student situation, and they're talking about the salaries and all that sort of thing, too, that which was quite, I'll say, remarkable.
The $636,000. How about the 29% raise?
I'm not going to get into. I'm just saying remarkable. It's notable.
It's a $140,000 raise. People, that's 3 times the median income in this community.
I know, but what I was looking at that article was not so much the raise issue, but from a local elected representative. We had to deal with so much based on the influx of international students. And that's just one example of federal and provincial policies where issues land on our streets. And if something lands on our streets, it's a municipal responsibility. And you're seeing that reflected in the property tax increases that are happening because we're dealing with so many things that weren't originally intended for property tax increases. The areas of public health, the CTS issue, paramedic services, police services, those are all intended. But now, we're supporting the food bank. We've got housing issues. We're building houses, supportive housing. Rents are getting increasingly higher. There's more people that are homeless in the community. We're dealing with all of that. And it's a tough slog because in Ontario, it lands at the municipal doorstep. The provinces take responsibility for those issues. And so therefore, they're dealing it on a province-wide basis. And so when you're in a situation where, as a municipality, you're dealing with things and you're hoping for maybe some funds from the province or the feds to assist you with these issues, it's never enough. And so where do we turn? To the only place we have left. And so these sorts of things are all causing increases and pressures at the municipal level. And that's sort of, I think, in the show, we can take a look at any of these situations. Sure, you're going to have people that are concerned about certain things, but I'm hoping to bring a different look, a different view, a different thought to what's happening to help people better understand what our local representatives are trying to do. I'm not an apologist, but I'm not a critic. I'm just trying to provide people with a better understanding, maybe a teacher in some sense.
Well, and this is what attracted me to the idea of doing something like this, because I think back on our shared history, Rob, and we have that, although we were at slightly different times. We both came through St. Jerome's High School.
Yeah.
You became a card-carrying member of a young political party.
Yeah.
I never was.
The Liberals, you can say.
Okay, I wasn't sure you wanted to. So you were a young Liberal. I never got affiliated officially with any political
me
party.
Me and John Malloy.
But I was, yes, you and John Malloy. But I was certainly somebody that was active, engaged in those sorts of things. But here's the truth of it all. I find you today, the Rob Deutschmann that I first got to know when you were mayor of North Dumfries.
Yeah, okay.
And the Rob Deutschmann that I know today.
Where's this going?
Well, it's gone left. It's gone left. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so either I have stubbornly refused to progress, as progressives, lefts might say, but I find our political paths have diverged somewhat.
Maybe you've shifted.
I don't think I have, but maybe I have.
I don't think I have.
Okay. And so I thought this is going to be, and you use teacher, I think that's perfect. This is going to be an opportunity for me to learn, and hopefully by extension, our audience as well. Because you can articulate ideas, whether I agree with them or not, we can have some discussions about them.
Yeah. When I say teacher, I'm not saying that I know the answers to everything. I'll learn as well, right? As we go through this process. I'm quite excited about having the opportunity to do this and spend that time, because that was always the premise of my Old Grey Mares podcast. The whole premise was to provide people with information about how things happen and why they happen. Because I always felt when someone was no longer elected, like I'm no longer elected, you can speak more freely about things. And that was what I found with the Old Grey Mares podcast. So I can share some of the thoughts and information that I've learned from that as well. Like, whether we should have one big city or two-tier.
We should not have two-tier. Did you hear the story the other day about Duke Street? come on with your coming on. So Metrolinx wants to do the pedestrian and cycling underpass on Duke for the new transit terminal.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So, but Duke is a city street. It's under the jurisdiction of the city of Kitchener.
Right.
So Kitchener must transfer jurisdiction to the region. And then the region, once it accepts the transfer, must change the parking by. Like, it's ridiculous, Rob.
Well,
it's
okay,
ridiculous.
That's paperwork, though. It's not a big deal.
But you got people on both sides getting paid to do the paperwork.
Yeah,
okay. And then you need to rewrite bylaws. Somebody's getting paid to do that.
Yeah.
And the project can't start until we finish the transfer of jurisdiction. It's ridiculous.
I think we have other bigger issues to worry about.
That's
so
why
I think
we
the
should be
positive there is that Metrolinx is pushing ahead with stuff.
Yeah, Metrolinx pushing ahead with stuff.
I know.
Okay, let me ask, because this popped into my head, and just as we wrap up our first segment, but is that transit hub ever going to be built? Is it the new Highway 7?
No.
Are you sure?
100%.
Are you sure?
100%.
Okay.
100%. It's not the Highway 7.
Where is it then? It's been at least a decade.
There's been lots of plans happening.
Yeah.
Okay. It's coming together. It takes time. Look at Metrolinx. Look at all of our transit. Right. It is slow go. It's just across the province. Eglinton, Crosstown, and Toronto.
I know.
Right?
But we're Waterloo Region. We're supposed to be better than this.
Well, we are very good at what we did. And don't forget, we have a functioning ION. And would you want Ottawa's situation?
With their O-train, was it called?
Yeah. I mean, the Ottawa situation has been a disaster all the way through. In fact, I think didn't Ford pledge during the election that the province was going to take over their light rail transit? That's how bad it's gotten over there. Here, and I go back to that 2010 to 2014 group of people and staff, and I'm not comparing one to the other, but I'm just saying that the region, and we have good people today too, but the region was very well served by that group of people who took less money than they expected to get, came up with a plan, and implemented that plan and executed. And as Tom Galloway likes to say, got it done on time.
On time.
1 minute before the summer solstice or something. So.
I still tease him about that. Rob Deutschmann, Political R&D. We're going to do it Wednesday mornings at 11:30, and we're all going to learn more about the goings-on inside those hallowed halls of local political office. Thanks for agreeing to do this.
Thanks for providing the opportunity, Mike. And go Rangers.
That's right. Go Rangers. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Time for the Local Business Spotlight on 570 News Radio.
Well, you know what they say about the best laid plans. They are laid out very well, which is why I get the opportunity this morning to share with you that our friends at the Split the Pot Lottery have launched a lottery that supports 73 hospitals across this province, including hospitals right here in our community. And that includes support for the Grand River Hospital Foundation. I suppose, are we calling that Wren at Midtown Hospital Foundation now? Either way, not only does it support hospitals, it gives Ontarians multiple chances to win cash prizes. There is a current estimated grand prize payout of $250,000. That's right, $250,000. Funds that have been raised to date with this Split the Pot lottery have been used to purchase new vital signs monitors in the hospital, the Wren at Midtown. This monitor is essential for continuously assessing and recording critical patient parameters such as heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen saturation, and respiratory rate. Remember that what we see in hospitals, when we talk about hospital funding, staffing is funded through our provincial healthcare dollars, but everything else, all of that equipment is funded through fundraising in the community or efforts like this. So I want you to know that the second early bird deadline in the Split the Pot lottery is tonight. You've got 17 chances to win your share of $80,000 in early bird prizes. And if you purchase by 11:59 tonight, so you still got just over 12 hours. That's the second early bird deadline. You could be our lucky winner tomorrow of up to $5,000, and you'll be entered into all of the remaining draws. So it pays to be an early bird. You could have $5,000 tomorrow if you buy before 11:59 tonight, and you're still in for all of the remaining draws. And consider this, April has a special early bird offering. The Dream and Drive prize. You could win a 2025 Ford Bronco Sport and a year's worth of gas. I don't care if gas prices are down. It's still a year's worth of gas. Or you could take cash instead, a $30,000 cash alternative. Plus, there are 13 other chances to be a grand prize winner. The payout guaranteed, again, at $250,000. Tickets start at just $10, and you can buy them at splitthepot.ca, or you can even call. So take down this number, 1-833-804-6262 if you want to purchase over the phone. I'll give you that number again, 1-833-804-6262. That's how you buy over the phone, or you go online to splitthepot.ca. Again, tickets start at just $10. And if you buy 25 tickets for $20 this month, you get 15 bonus tickets. The best value, though, I just want you to know, I want you to be aware, the best value is 600 tickets for $100. And then you get 100 bonus tickets. It works out to be just 14 cents a ticket. You know, I love me some numbers. I love me some math. And that's how it works out. Remember, you are supporting hospitals across this province, including ours right here in the region of Waterloo. Estimated grand prize payout of $250,000. That second early bird deadline is tonight at 11:59. Get your tickets at splitthepot.ca or by calling 1-833-804-6262. A quick programming reminder for you. I gotta go. I gotta go. I'm leaving a little early today. The Kitchener Rangers begin their playoff series with the Windsor Spitfires tomorrow. Thursday night in Windsor, Game 1. Saturday night in Windsor, Game 2. And I am joining the team for the trip down the 401. The most boring drive in the history of 401 drives. But I'm going to join them for that drive nonetheless, because if you're going to go on a boring drive, go with an exciting hockey team, you see? So I'll be traveling with the Rangers today, and I got to get out of here in order to meet the bus on time. So, Rob Snow, what a guy. Like this guy, let me tell you, tell you right now about that Rob Snow guy, good guy in the room. And he's going to be on with you from noon until 1 today, and then from 1 until 2 and 2 until 3. Noon to 3 with Rob Snow, and I know that brings joy to the hearts of many. Get rid of that Farwell guy, the sooner the better. So Rob will be here starting at noon just for today. Tomorrow, I will do the show from the road. I'll be in Windsor, but I'll do the show Thursday and Friday, the regular show from 9 until 1. And we'll have a good time talking about some Rangers hockey and all of those other things. But I got to duck out now to be on the bus, to go to the games, to broadcast them for you as we start round 2 with the Kitchener Rangers tomorrow night. Speaking of things in the future, a little further ahead than 24 hours away. But I should take this opportunity, I would like to take this opportunity, to invite you to our Farwell for Hire launch party. That's right, you can come and have a good time with us at the museum in downtown Kitchener on a Thursday night, no less, May the 1st. Would love to have you join us. There's going to be music by Something's Always Flying. Our friends at the Village Caterer are providing food. We're going to have incredible silent auction prizes, and every ticket sold puts you automatically into a draw for a really cool local, because you know I love me some local, raffle prize. So it's a door prize just for buying a ticket. Tickets are only $25, and because we've got such generous friends and partners, every nickel from your ticket price to what you spend on the silent auction that night or anything like that is a direct donation to the Farwell for Hire campaign for cystic fibrosis research. So would love to have you join us for a night of music, of fun, of laughter, of good conversation. And we can say words at the museum that we don't say here, okay? Thursday, May the 1st. If you would like tickets, shoot me an email, mike@570news.com, or just check out our website, Farwell, 4hire.com. farwellforhire.com. You can get your tickets from the link right there. Would love for you to join us on Thursday, May the 1st at the museum in downtown Kitchener for our Farwell for Hire launch party. Our 12th annual campaign is just about to get underway. And on that note, I am out of here. My name's Mike Farwell. Bye for now.